Android Sue Time Travels Through. Chapter 3. The next morning, Debbie hid Sue among the junk under her bed before she went to the kitchen for some breakfast. Sue wanted to get back to the Rutherford Hotel. Maybe once there she could find a way back to her own time, but she'd need her jumpsuit with the tool belt and the sensor wig before she could leave. Sue cautiously came out from under the bed and was looking around the floor for her jumpsuit when Debbie's older brother Tom passed by the room. "Hey, what's in here?" Tom stopped at Debbie's door, thinking he saw movement, and went in to investigate. Sue quickly dashed back under the bed. Tom would routinely search his sister's room, looking for things of value she brought home from around the neighborhood. He leaned down, looked under the bed, and saw a beautiful doll lying among the broken toys and balls of dust. "Well, what have we here?" said Tom as he pulled Sue out from under the bed. Tom knew this doll was much too nice to have been given to Debbie by their mother. He thought Debbie must have found it or stolen it from somewhere. He saw a doll like this in Lou's pawn shop priced at $300, and it didn't look as nice as this one. Tom thought he might be able to sell the doll to Lou, so he stuffed Sue under his coat and left the apartment unnoticed by Debbie and their mother. Tom walked into Lou's pawn shop, a small store lined with shelves from floor to ceiling on all four walls, which were crammed with hundreds of items for sale. Lou, an ill-kempt man in his 50s, wearing a t-shirt and pants fastened low on his hips under his big sagging belly, sat on a stool behind a glass counter with his dog Spike at his feet. Spike, a short-haired mutt of medium size, warily looked up as Tom pulled Sue out from under his jacket and laid her on the glass counter in front of Lou. Tom said, "How much will you give me for this?" Lou said, $50. Knowing that because this doll was larger, in excellent condition, and still had her hair, he could sell her for at least $500. "That's not enough. You're selling that one for $300. Tom argued, pointing at a similar doll on a shelf. Lou said, "Yeah, and I ain't sold that one, so I can't pay more for another doll." Tom could see he wouldn't be able to get any more money out of Lou, so he took the $50 and left the pawn shop. Lou cleared some space on a shelf next to the smaller, similar doll he already had. This doll was wearing only a kimono and had lost her wig, so was bald. But Lou tied a piece of colored cloth around the doll's head to make her look a little more pleasing. Lou removed Sue's baby doll dress and dressed her in a pleated plaid skirt and blouse he was going to sell separately. The clothes fit Sue well. He placed her on a shelf next to the doll he already had, wrote $500 on a price tag, and tied it around Sue's wrist. The price of that doll would be worth the rent of a small living space for a month in the year 2313. Sue sat still on the shelf all day as people came in and out. Once a little girl came into the store with her father, saw Sue on the shelf, and exclaimed, "Oh, Daddy, please buy me the pretty dolly." But when the man looked at the price tag tied to Sue's wrist, he said, "I could buy you 10 brand new dolls for that much money." The man bought a small camera and left the pawn shop with his daughter, who was still whining for him to buy Sue. A couple of other people looked at Sue's price tag, but none were willing to pay the price. Finally, as the sun was going down, Lou pulled the metal gate in front of the windows, locked the front door, and went out the back door, locking it behind him. As soon as Lou was out the door, Sue could finally study the doll next to her on the shelf. She could see immediately that this was no ordinary doll of that time, but a model GX333 android which had ceased to function. Sue wanted to see if she could find out why this doll no longer functioned and maybe fix her. In trying to get to the other side of the doll, Sue knocked a small radio off the shelf and it clattered to the floor. Spike came bounding through the store from the back room, barking furiously up at Sue. Lou had left Spike in the store as a guard dog. Lou was walking to his car down the alley behind the pawn shop when he heard Spike barking. He ran back to the store, unlocked the back door, and raced to the front of the store to see Spike furiously barking up at that new doll on the shelf, which was sitting just where it had been all day. "Calm down," Lou said. "It's just a doll." Spike would not stop barking. and Lou knew the tenants who lived in the apartment above the store would call the police if Spike barked too long. "You're coming home with me tonight, buddy." Lou clipped a leash to Spike's collar and walked out through the back door of the shop. This time, Sue listened to Lou walking down the alley and heard his car door slam before she got up to examine the other doll. She removed the doll's head plate to check the brain mechanism. She saw there was a loose connection, and if she could mend it, the smaller doll might begin to function again. She needed some tools. On a lower shelf across the room, Sue could see a miniature toolkit in a plastic case. She easily got the tools and brought them up to work on the smaller doll. After a half hour or so of poking around in the smaller android's head, Sue put the head plate back on, found a bright flashlight to shine on the android's recharge cell, and said in a loud, clear voice, "Reset." The smaller android said, "What happened?" "I don't know. You tell me," Sue replied. "What's your name?" "My name is Trina," said the android. "Trina?" thought Sue. Could this be the android her boss lost 6 years ago? Sue wasn't created until after Trina was lost, so it never worked with her. But Trina did have the internal mechanism of those earlier models. "How did you get here?" Sue asked. It was getting quite dark outside, and Sue didn't want anyone getting curious about a light shining in the store. So once Trina had been recharged enough to move around, Sue took her into the back room, away from any windows, and sat her down in front of the flashlight. As Trina sat on the dirty floor with the flashlight shining on her recharge cell, she told Sue she had been crawling through a conduit in the roof of the Rutherford Hotel and saw the same shimmering air Sue had seen. When Trina passed through it, the hotel changed. "I spent hours wandering through the conduits trying to find my way back," said Trina. "When I came through to this time, the Rutherford had many people living in the rooms. I was spotted by a man while I was walking down one of the dimly lit hallways. He picked me up and took me back to his room and put me in a small metal box which he locked," she said with a shudder, remembering the long, long time she spent in the dark of that small box. "He never opened the box again, and I couldn't escape from inside. After the first few months, I lost track of how long I was in that box." Sue shuddered in sympathy with Trina, knowing how hard that must have been, being in such a small, dark place for so long. "But if you made some noise, surely he would have opened the box, and you may have been able to escape," said Sue. "The box was so small I could barely move, and though I did try making some noise, I guess it wasn't loud enough for the man to hear," said Trina. While in the box, which was stuffed in the back of a closet, Trina could sometimes hear snatches of conversation between the man and a woman who also lived there. One day, about a month after Trina had been placed in the box, this man had a big argument with the woman he was living with. They were yelling very loudly, and Trina could hear the woman say, "You selfish bastard! I know it doesn't mean anything to you, but did you ever stop to think it might mean something to me?" In a quieter voice, the man said, "I guess I wasn't thinking. What else can I say? What's done is done, and I can't change it now. I promise I'll never do it again. You know it's you I love." "I can't take this anymore," said the woman, exasperated. Trina could hear her closer now, moving some things around. "Don't leave," the man said in a soft, pleading voice. The woman calmly replied, "I'm not leaving, you are." "He left that day and never came back as far as I could tell," said Trina. "And after a while that woman put everything she thought was his into a storage area in the basement, including the box I was in. She never even looked inside. Slowly my power ran out, and I slipped into a dormant state. I don't remember anything else until I woke up just now in this shop." "You were gone 6 years," said Sue. "I also worked for Sten and heard the story of how you never came back from the Rutherford job. They never knew what happened to you." Sue told Trina of how she came to this time in the same way Trina had 6 years before, but that she couldn't even guess how that was possible. Sue said, "We need to get back to the Rutherford Hotel. Maybe there we can find a way back to our own time. But first, Sue needed her jumpsuit, tool belt, and sensor wig from Debbie's room. There were many people walking past on the sidewalk in front of the store, so she decided it would be best to leave by the back door. There was a double lock on the back door that had to be opened with a key, even from the inside. Sue had trouble picking the lock with her newfound toolkit, so Trina took over. She seemed quite skilled with the primitive tools, and in no time they were out the door and into the alley behind the pawn shop.